Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. I'm CW. Got a little bit of history or a tale. Um, it's called Arthur Briggs and the Mystery of the Seas. So, do you know who Arthur Stanley Briggs? No, he's not related to Jimmy Briggs of YouTube fame, I don't think. Jimmy, I hope you're feeling well, and if you are related to Arthur Briggs, please send me a comment about it. Anyway, Arthur Briggs lived with his grandmother and attended school in Massachusetts in 1872. He's just a simple kid who grew up with, by all accounts, probably a real good life. He ended up marrying a girl named Peggy Holmes, and they had two sons. There's no mention of any gunfights or hangings or any type of bad scandals in his life. Trust me, the best plan for him in 1872 was to stay with Grandma and go to school. Good advice even today. You see, Arthur Briggs is directly related to one of the weirdest nautical mysteries of all time. So, at the time, it seemed very unfair to him, this 5-year-old little boy, that his little sister, Sophia, who was 2 years old, got to go on a boat ride with mother and father, and he didn't get to go. When he was 5, he was sailing home with his parents from Spain. So why not now? Before this opened up, Benjamin Briggs, Arthur's father, almost invested a sound amount of money with his own brother. With that, the two brothers would take part in a hardware business. However, at a second chance, Benjamin bought a part of James Winchester's venture. The business was a 282-ton ship for hauling supplies and industrial products. It made sense to Benjamin because he was a sea captain of good reputation and basically had been at sea since he was a boy. But this ship had quite the past, and that would make all but one of the Briggs family a part of history. The vessel first started its voyage on Spencer Island, Nova Scotia in Canada. When the ship left the port, it was known as the Amazon. She was built with 2 masts, like most brigantines. It launched in 1861 with a load of lumber, making its way over the waves to London. The captain at the time made sure that the cargo was loaded on properly and supervised the operation. But shortly thereafter, he began to feel ill. The ship sailed out of port, but soon returned as the captain, Robert McLennan, his illness had gotten worse. And indeed, the captain perished after arriving back at Spencer's Island. A new captain, John Parker, took the ship out of Canada onto London, but bad luck followed the vessel, regardless of who was at the helm. In Maine, as soon as the ship left Canadian waters, the ship collided with fishing traps and equipment. Then, after arriving and unloading the cargo in London, the ship crashed into a smaller merchant vessel in the English Channel. And this is where the smaller vessel sank. The Amazon sailed with no events for the next few years, out in the European waters and the Caribbean seas without any further incident. However, in 1867, she would run aground and be cited as a derelict vessel. Richard Haynes bought the ship and he refitted her. She was renamed the Mary Celeste, but bad luck of the ship's bones still came up from the holes. Haynes became in debt and was greatly behind in his payments, and his ship was seized by his creditors. Enter James Winchester, who purchased the debt and this is where Captain Briggs obtained his share of the ship. A cabin was constructed on the deck for his family. Both Captain Briggs and Sarah, his wife, informed other family members of their confidence in the crew. On November 7th, 1872, the Mary Celeste left the port of New York and sailed past Staten Island on its way to Genoa, Italy, with a hold full of industrial alcohol. She was loaded with 1,701 barrels of the liquid. On November 25th, the log entry stated that they had experienced rough seas and extremely bad weather for both the 24th and the 25th. Santa Maria Island of the Azores was in sight. And that's the end of Captain Benjamin Briggs and his wife Sarah, his daughter Sophia, and the crew's story. Because 9 days later, on December 4th, the British ship Deo Gracia spotted the Mary Celeste adrift, partially sailed, and 500 miles from the location written in the ship's log. The crew of the British vessel discovered that those on board had left as if in a panic. According to some sources, meals were left, personal belongings were left, and the entire cargo was still intact. The cargo was valued at $35,000 at the time. The captain's papers, navigational tools, and a chronometer, along with a lifeboat, was missing. Accordingly, only 9 barrels of the 1,701 had leaked out. The hull did have about 3.5 feet of water inside the vessel. But this alone is not considered dangerous, as it may seem. The British crew was able to man the Mary Celeste and sail her to Gibraltar without any further incident. So, what happened? The Attorney General of Gibraltar hosted an investigation on the incident. He found no reasons for foul play or piracy. He made no notes of mutiny. The crew that discovered the vessel was in the clear. There were theories presented, but none were accepted. Things like sea quakes, waterspouts, unusual waves, and weather, but no reason was rendered for the mystery. And just a note, no one on the Azores mentioned anything like lights from the sky or any alien presence during that time. The ship certainly seemed to be cursed, just based on its past. I mean, one reason the new owners changed the name was because of its past, with a death and those accidents. Even with the end of the vessel's life, the Mary Celeste was the center of an inquiry that could have taken the life of another captain, Gilman C. Parker. Apparently, Captain Parker had made a deal to load the Mary Celeste with worthless goods, then purposely wrecked the Mary Celeste on a reef near Haiti, and then report the loss, a greater loss. However, the fraud was discovered, and after the act, and Parker was placed on trial, a serious trial that in those days, in the 19th century, he could have been found guilty and hung. But that charge was deferred, and he was set free. But he was a ruined man. He would later die penniless in about 3 months. 2 other men who helped him, one of them killed himself, and the other ended up going mad. And the curse just kept going, even from beneath the waves of the Caribbean Sea. Oh, and Mr. Arthur Briggs, the son of Captain Briggs and Sarah. Remember, he had to stay and go to school. He lived to be 66. He had a wife, 2 sons. I will tell you this, though. On the day he died, the SS Saka, a cargo ship, sprang a leak and sunk to the bottom of the ocean, or excuse me, the Baltic Seas. That was the day he died. Just a little weird. Arthur Briggs is buried in Evergreen Cemetery, Plymouth, Massachusetts, after dying on October 31st, 1931. Just a coincidence, right? It's not a curse. I'll see you next time. Maybe I'll come up with something even better.